They say the jungle sleeps at night, but they're wrong. The jungle never sleeps. It listens. It watches. And sometimes, it waits. That night, the trees stood still, like they were holding their breath. Even the birds, the ones that usually shrieked until dawn, had gone quiet. The only sound was the slow drip of water off the leaves and the soft crunch of a young scout's footsteps. He was moving fast, head down, trying to reach the northern ridge before moonrise. Orders were simple: map the edge, check the ash trail, return. He never did. In the morning, they found his body beside the river, twisted, snapped at the spine like a matchstick, his eyes wide open, still looking at something. No wounds, no blood, just silence. But everyone knew what it meant. The war had begun. Back at camp, under the dead baobab, the black rhino stood in a circle. No one spoke. No one blinked. Cabo stood in the center, bare chest, scars like old roots across his arms. He didn't shout. Cabo never shouted. He just looked down at the broken scout's blade placed in front of him, and then looked up. "Zuba," he muttered. "She's hungry again." That's all he said. And that was enough. Around him, warriors gritted their teeth. They tightened the cords around their clubs. One of them began smearing ash across his chest, the old way, the way of the first hunt. It wasn't about revenge. It was about balance. Zuba had taken a life. Now, one must be taken back. Far to the south, flames flickered beneath the singing cliffs. The red crows were already awake. Zuba stood above them, arms stretched out, her body painted with fire-colored dust. Her eyes didn't blink. Her lips whispered a chant older than memory. Behind her, the women lit torches. The men dipped arrows into black oil. "He will come," she whispered. "He will charge, like he always does." A younger soldier stepped forward. "And if he brings the ghost?" Zuba smiled. "Then the forest will eat him too." High above them all, somewhere deep in the canopy, a shadow moved between the trees. Nyala. No war paint. No torches. No drums. Just silence. He watched. He waited. And he smiled. He wasn't on anyone's side. He was waiting for both sides to fall. That night, the jungle didn't scream. It waited. And somewhere, under the thick leaves, something began to bleed. Cabo didn't wait. By the next sunset, the black rhinos were already marching. 30 men, barefoot and painted in black mud, their bodies blending into the forest floor like shadows with breath. Each one carried an iron club carved from rail metal, rusted, heavy, meant for crushing. They walked in silence. Cabo led them himself. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just kept walking north, toward the cliffs where Zuba lit her fires. The path to the singing cliffs isn't just steep, it's cursed. That's what the old ones say. A place where bones grow under the soil, where laughter turns into cries. And that night, it felt true. As they reached the ridge, the air changed. The breeze stopped. The smell hit them first: burnt wood, ash, and something else. Oil. Then the sound. Not drums. Not chants. Just a whistle. Soft. Thin. Sharp. And then, the forest lit up. The red crows struck first. From behind the rocks, from inside the trees, from above the trail, they came like fire itself. Arrows dipped in black tar whistled through the night, some bursting into flame mid-air, some piercing flesh before sound could catch up. One by one, Cabo's men dropped, not from pain, but from confusion. It wasn't a battle. It was burning. Cabo didn't flinch. Even as his front line collapsed, as 2 of his men screamed with flames eating through their backs, he didn't run. He didn't even shout. He just grabbed one of the fallen clubs and ran into the fire. Straight into it. His skin burned. His feet crushed embers. But his roar, that roar, cut through it all. And for a second, even the fire seemed to freeze. That's when Zuba appeared. She didn't run. She walked. Calm, poised, like a dancer stepping onto her stage. She wore nothing but feathers and flame, the mark of the Red Queen, and in her hand, a longbow carved from the bone of an elephant's jaw. She pointed it straight at Cabo. "You're late," she said. Cabo's face was soaked in sweat and soot. He raised his horn club. "You took one of mine." Zuba smirked. He was weak. That was enough. Cabo charged. The 2 warlords collided beneath a burning tree, club against bow, fire against iron, while their warriors clashed in screams around them. Every swing Cabo made cracked the air. Every arrow Zuba let loose whistled like a curse. It wasn't clean. It wasn't pretty. It was rage turned to war. But just as Cabo knocked Zuba to the ground, just as his club came down with a scream, it stopped. Not because of mercy. Because of the sound. Something high above. A scream, but not human. Cabo froze. Zuba rolled away. Both looked up. In the trees, one of the red crows was falling. Not hit. Not burnt. Just falling. Limp. Head twisted backward. Neck cleanly broken. No sound. No trace. Just death, like a hand had reached down from the branches and plucked him out of life. Cabo narrowed his eyes. He's watching. Zuba stood up slowly, firelight dancing on her arms. Let him. High above them, in the canopy, Nyala crouched, silent, smiling. 2 flames burn, he whispered. And when they do, he touched the blade coated with sap and frog venom. The jungle breathes better. The night after the ambush, the jungle went dead. No whispers. No wind. Not even insects. As if the trees themselves had bowed their heads for the bodies that still smoldered along the cliffs. The air stank of burnt flesh, blood, and betrayal. But Cabo didn't mourn. He sharpened. He sat alone near the riverbank, grinding his iron horn across a stone slick with ash. Not a word passed his lips. Only breath. Long, deep. Controlled. He had lost 9 men. 9 warriors, burned alive or shot down like dogs. One of them was his nephew. Still, no rage on his face. Just that silence. The kind of silence that comes before a scream. When the moon rose the next night, Cabo moved. He didn't take 30 men this time. He took 7. 7 of his oldest, meanest, quietest killers. Men with no names. Only scars. They didn't carry torches. They didn't speak. They moved like roots through the dark, straight toward the Red Crow camp. Zuba's warriors were celebrating. Drums thumped. Women danced. Skins were painted with victory fire. They thought they had pushed Cabo back. They didn't know he was already there. The attack didn't start with a war cry. It started with a whisper, a blade through the throat of a sentry. Then another. Then another. By the time the 3rd watchman fell, the fire pits were already being kicked over, sparks flying into the trees. One of the tents exploded, not from fire, but from a man leaping through it, wrapped in mud, swinging a club like a thunder god. They called him Barrow the Toothless. He didn't scream when he fought. He just growled like a dying lion. He broke the ribs of a Red Crow dancer with one swing. Cabo came in last. His club dripped black from the edge. His body was covered in ash and bone dust. He walked straight into the heart of Zuba's camp, through fire and arrows, like a ghost wrapped in iron. He didn't speak. He didn't miss. Every man he struck died. Not fell. Died. Zuba wasn't there. She had moved camps 2 hours earlier, a trick she often used. But this wasn't about her now. This was about the message. And Cabo delivered it in blood. By dawn, 12 Red Crow warriors lay dead. 2 huts were burning. And hanging from the tall wooden post where Zuba once tied her victory feathers, Cabo left a skull. Clean. Boiled. Still smoking from the inside. On the outer edge of the battlefield, among the trees, someone watched. A man with no war paint. No scent. No sound. Nyala. He crouched among the roots, one eye on Cabo, one hand on a poison dart. But he didn't shoot. He just whispered. Now, the beast wakes. Far beneath him, in the blood-soaked dirt, Cabo finally spoke, just one sentence. She sent fire. I will return it. Then he disappeared into the trees again, dragging 3 Red Crow spears behind him. He wouldn't use them. He just wanted her to know he had them. They used to say his mother was a shadow, and his father was the wind. Nyala was never born. He just appeared. Some say they found him in a tree, wrapped in snake skin. Some say he crawled out of the roots of the jungle itself. But those who've seen him and lived, they don't say anything, because they know better. He doesn't lead warriors. He leads silence. While Cabo and Zuba trade fire and bones, Nyala moves between their anger like smoke. No flag. No drums. No scars on his body. His face is bare, always. His skin was painted only by moonlight and mud. But he carries poison. Not just any poison, jungle poison. The kind made from dried frog skin, black ants, crushed bark, and human bile. A single drop, and your lungs forget how to breathe. and he doesn't waste it. That night, as Zuba's new camp prepared to strike back at Cabo, Nyala entered, not with force, but with breath. He walked right past their perimeter, unseen. No one heard a step. No leaves cracked. Even the birds stayed quiet, as if they knew. By the time a sentry noticed something was off, his mouth was already foaming. He didn't scream. He didn't even fall. He just stopped moving. Zuba's tent was guarded by 2 men, warriors trained to kill with their bare hands. Nyala didn't fight them. He left a small bowl outside the entrance. A bowl filled with still water, a feather floating on top, and one word etched in the clay. Wait. Inside, Zuba paused. She hadn't heard the bowl placed. She hadn't heard the feather drop. But she felt something. A change in the air. Like the jungle had taken a breath in. She stepped outside, barefoot, and looked at the bowl. The guards were still standing, but their eyes were glazed over. Frozen. Alive, but empty. She didn't touch the bowl. She didn't speak. She just looked at the trees and whispered, "You're early." No answer. Just the slow, soft movement of branches above. Somewhere up there, in the thick green arms of the canopy, Nyala sat like a statue. Watching. Listening. He didn't need to kill her yet. Not today. He needed her to burn first. Let her light the jungle. Let her rage. Let Cabo roar. And when both were drowning in their own blood, then he would come down. Later that night, as Zuba prepared her retaliation, her voice rose over the fires. No more arrows. No more dance. No more games. She held up a small knife, carved from obsidian. We will perform the old ritual. Tonight, we cut the jungle open and feed it Cabo's flesh. The red crows howled, and somewhere far away, Cabo sharpened his blade against stone. But neither of them saw the real war, because it hadn't begun yet. Nyala had already marked his targets. Not soldiers, not generals. He was coming for their roots. Before the guns, before iron clubs, before poison, there were rituals. Old ones, older than memory. When men wanted war, they didn't march. They didn't shout. They bled. Voluntarily. Deliberately. To wake the jungle gods. And Zuba, she hadn't forgotten. That night, beneath a red sky swollen with smoke, the red crows circled around a massive termite mound, sacred ground, believed to house the spirit of an ancient war chief whose heart still beat beneath the soil. Zuba stood at the center, barefoot, bare-chested. Her arms were painted in spirals of blood and ash. Not from her enemies, but from her own warriors. They had given her their blood willingly. Their wrists were wrapped in vines. Their chants broke the air like a fevered storm. It wasn't rage. It was a sacrifice. She lifted the obsidian blade to the sky, the edge coated with the blood of 7 men. Buka, she called. Old fire. Jungle father. Hear us. The flames around the circle rose. Smoke climbed like fingers clawing at the sky. We have bled. Now you must feed. Then she took the blade and cut her own palm, deep, letting her blood fall onto the mound. One drop, then another, then another. Take it, she hissed. And take him. The jungle stirred. Birds flew from the trees all at once. Not from fear, but from instinct. Like something had woken up. Something old. Something angry. Back in the north, Cabo felt it. He was sharpening his spear when the fire in his camp hissed for no reason. Just hissed. He turned. I looked toward the sky. The moon, once full, was now half covered in red smoke. He didn't know why, but he felt it in his chest. Something had changed. An elder stepped forward. She's called them, the old man whispered. She's opened the gate. Cabo didn't flinch. He tied a horn-shaped bone around his neck. Let them come. But not everyone believed in jungle spirits. Nyala didn't. He watched the ritual from the treetops, not with reverence, but with cold calculation. To him, the gods were just stories used by leaders to control flame. But tonight, even he paused. Because as the blood hit the mound, the earth shivered. Not the trees. Not the air. The earth. A low, growling pulse rolled beneath the roots, not loud, but deep. Like something large breathing under the soil. Even Nyala's grip tightened on his branch. By the time the red crows finished chanting, the fire pit had collapsed in on itself. The termite mound cracked open, and from inside, they pulled out something no one had touched in years, a black mask carved from volcanic stone, shaped like a jaguar's face, with hollow eyes. Zuba held it in both hands and turned to her warriors. From this night on, we do not fight for land. We fight for fear. She placed the mask over her face. We fight like gods. Far away, the jungle blinked. Not literally, but the light dimmed. The animals went quiet. The leaves stopped moving. And every man who'd ever spilled blood in Bala felt it. This war had become something else. No longer surviving. No longer vengeance. Now, it was a calling. The jungle smelled like iron. Not from weapons. From blood. The skies had finally opened, and for the first time in weeks, it rained. Not a downpour, just a slow, steady weeping. As if the sky was mourning something it knew before any of us did. Cabo's men sat in silence, gathered under torn canvas, their iron clubs resting in the mud. No songs tonight. No war drums. Just firelight flickering on tired eyes. Something was wrong. Earlier that morning, one of Cabo's messengers, a boy named Dumo, hadn't returned. He was sent south to track the Red Crow movement. A short mission. In and out. Simple. But when his body was found, it wasn't pierced. It wasn't burned. It was stripped. Every tooth removed. Lips sewn shut. A black feather stitched into his tongue. That wasn't Zuba's style. Zuba burned. She bled. She roared. This was quiet. Precise. Personal. Only one man was killed like that. Nyala. But why? Dimo wasn't a warrior. He was just a runner. So Cabo stood in the rain, staring at the corpse wrapped in palm leaves, and said only one thing. Someone opened the gate. No one replied. They didn't know what he meant. But they would. South, in the Red Crow camp, something even stranger was happening. Zuba was missing. Her warriors searched every tent, every hollow tree, the ritual grounds, the cliff trails. Gone. Only her mask remained, placed on the altar, resting against a bowl of ash still warm. And beside it, a mark drawn in mud. A circle split down the middle. Nyala's mark. The news hit like a punch to the chest. Cabo heard it before midnight. He didn't celebrate. He didn't even believe it. Zuba? Vanished? He didn't trust it. She doesn't vanish, he muttered. She strikes. But still, he sent scouts. Doubled the perimeter. Locked down the valley. Because if Zuba truly was gone, the balance had cracked. And when balance cracks, the jungle breaks. The betrayal came just before dawn. A fire at the eastern line. Not an attack, an inside burn. Someone from Cabo's own side had lit the supply tents, freeing 2 captured Red Crow prisoners and vanishing into the trees. And when the smoke cleared, one body lay in the mud, a knife buried in his chest. Barrow the Toothless. The same man who crushed a dancer's ribs in part 2. The same man who never screamed. Now dead. Face down. And carved into his back, using something sharp and slow. Jungle doesn't choose sides. Cabo fell to his knees beside the body. His face didn't cry, but his hands, usually still, shook. He looked at the rain. He looked at the trees. And he said, almost to himself, we're not in control anymore. Up in the branches, Nyala crouched, watching it all. His mask is still dry. His blade is still wet. And in his hand, a scroll, old, torn, written in red ink. When gods fall silent, men start praying to ghosts. He smiled. They used to scare children with the name. Bala. They said it wasn't just a jungle. It was a mouth. Always open. Always hungry. And sometimes, it didn't care whose blood it drank. But nobody believed those stories. Until now. 2 days after Barrow's death, both camps went still. No attacks. No messengers. No movement. Just waiting. Like the forest itself had pressed a hand on both their throats and whispered, breathe, if you dare. Cabo's men patrolled in silence. They heard whispers in the trees. Not voices. Not words. Just a sound, like something breathing right behind them. Every time they turned, nothing. But they felt it. The sense that something was watching. And not Nyala. Something worse. South of the broken termite mound, a Red Crow scouting team for men disappeared in full daylight. No arrows. No struggle. No sound. Their bodies were found the next morning. Not torn apart. Not cut. But peeled. Skin removed cleanly. Hung from vines. Their heads turned toward the rising sun. as if someone or something wanted them seen. Zuba was still missing, or hiding. Some whispered that she had entered the deeper jungle, the place where the vines grow upside down and birds stop singing, the part of Mbala that even warriors don't enter. They say she was looking for something, or someone. Nyala had stopped killing. He was still in the trees, still watching, but he hadn't moved in days. Even now he is still alive, not scared, just listening, because deep in the belly of Mbala, something had changed. That night, it happened. The wind vanished. Even the rain stopped midair, like the sky had forgotten how to fall. And then came the scream. Not a human scream. Not animals either. It came from the forest floor. It sounded like the earth cracking open, like 1,000 bones snapping at once. It echoed for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. No birds. No insects. Just that sound. A scout named Kadi, from Cabo's side, tried to run. He didn't make it 200 steps before his body was thrown back into camp. Not dragged. Thrown. Like something had picked him up, crushed him, and tossed him like a rag. His spine was twisted. His eyes were missing. Not cut. Not burned. Just gone. Cabo stood over the body, fists clenched. He looked at his oldest warrior. Is this Zuba's doing? The old man shook his head slowly. Zuba bleeds. This does not bleed. This is not her. In the southern forest, one of Zuba's runners saw it. Only for a moment. A shape moving through the mist. It had limbs too many. Its skin was dark, but not like flesh, more like mud that breathed. It didn't roar. It just walked, and everything around it died. Trees wilted and scattered. Even the river nearby stopped flowing for 30 seconds. And when it looked at him, the boy said he forgot his own name. They call it Mbala's beast now. Some say it's the god Zuba tried to wake. Some say it's punishment for blood spilled without reason. And others, they say it's real. Not a god. Not a curse. Just an ancient thing that slept under the roots. And now, it's awake. Cabo gathered his warriors that night. We fight Zuba. We kill Nyala. But this thing fights all of us. For once, they agreed. Even enemies. Because when the jungle itself turns against you, there is no side. Only one question. How do you survive something that doesn't want you to? For 3 days, no one moved. No arrows flew. No drums beat. The jungle had silenced them all. Even Nyala had disappeared from the trees. And that's when she came back. No horns announced her. No chants followed her. Zuba walked into the center of her old camp alone, barefoot, her feet bleeding, her hair soaked in river mud. The jaguar mask was gone. She didn't need it anymore. The jungle had already marked her. Her warriors stared in disbelief. Some dropped to their knees. One tried to speak. She raised a hand, and he stopped. Zuba said nothing for a long time. Then finally, she whispered, "It's awake." The camp waited, unsure if she was talking about Cabo or the other thing. Then she unwrapped a cloth bundle she carried. Inside it, the fingers of 3 of her best warriors. Not cut, twisted, burned from the inside. Their skin blackened, not by flame, but by something older. Zuba's eyes flicked to the tree lean. This is not a god. It does not want worship. It wants quiet. At the same hour, 50 miles north, Cabo stood at the river, staring into the water. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. And when the scout arrived shaking, out of breath, bleeding from the feet, Cabo didn't even turn. "She's back," the scout said. "And she's asking for you." Cabo closed his eyes. He knew this would happen. Because war has rules. But what had come? It didn't follow rules. They met the next night. Not in a camp. Not in a cave. But at the hollow tree in the center of Mbala, the tree older than the tribes, the one with no bark and roots shaped like fingers. They came with no armies. Just a small circle of their most trusted fighters and silence in their bones. Zuba stood on one side. Cabo on the other hand. Between them, a fire, low and smoky. And behind them, Nyala. Neither of them turned to him. But they knew he was there. Zuba was the first to speak. "It's not hunting territory anymore. It's hunting us." Cabo didn't disagree. He just asked one thing. "Did you call it?" Zuba paused. Then, nodded. "I thought I could control it. I was wrong." For the first time in years, maybe ever, Cabo's face softened. No pity. Not forgiveness. just recognition. Because they were both warriors, and both of them now stood beneath something bigger than war. We fight each other, Kebo said. And the jungle laughs. So what now? Zuba bent down, took ash from the fire, smudged it across her forehead. Then she extended her hand, a hand that had burned villages, that had broken spears. Now it trembled slightly. We burned the war, she said, just long enough to kill the thing we woke. Behind them, Nyala finally stepped forward. He held no weapon, only a single black seed. He placed it into the fire. The flame hissed, then turned green for a moment and vanished. We don't have much time, he said. It only sleeps when it's fed. Zuba turned to Kebo. Do you trust him? Kebo looked into the trees. No, but I trust the silence. That night, for the first time, the black rhinos, the red crows, and the ghost of Bala agreed. They would kill the beast, together, or die before it did. They say when three enemies share a fire, something unnatural happens. Something ancient. That night, deep in the center of Mbala, Zuba, Kebo, and Nyala lit a green flame. Not from wood. From crushed seeds, frog venom, and the sap of the Yolanga tree, a tree that only bleeds when the jungle allows it. It hissed like a snake when it caught fire. And its smoke didn't rise. It sank, crawled across the earth, hugging roots, slithering like it remembered paths laid before men ever walked there. This, Nyala whispered, is the only light the beast won't eat. Zuba tightened the straps on her arms. Kebo stared into the fire, not blinking, not breathing. They were ready. The jungle wasn't. They moved at dawn. Not with armies, just a strike circle. 16 warriors, the strongest, fastest, most brutal from both tribes. Men and women who had once tried to kill each other, now walking side by side. And above them, Nyala danced between the trees. His blade is coated in black oil. His eyes scanned everything, even the silence. The deeper they went, the colder it got. Not wind cold, but bone cold. A chill that came up through the soles of their feet. And the sun? It stopped showing. The canopy thickened so much that even the firelight bent sideways. Birds wouldn't fly. Monkeys wouldn't scream. Even the insects were gone. Only breath and heartbeat. And that feeling, like being watched by something that doesn't blink. Then they found the circle. A clearing, perfectly round. No trees. Just black grass. And bones. Piles of bones. Hundreds. Some humans. Some animals. Some unrecognizable. The center of it all, a stone pillar. Carved with spirals. Stained dark. Breathing. Yes, breathing. Like lungs under the stone. Zuba stepped forward. This is its nest. Kebo raised his club. Then we burn it. Nyala didn't move. His eyes narrowed. It's already here. They didn't hear the beast arrive. They felt it. The ground shifted. Not like an earthquake. Like something huge rising just beneath the surface. And then, it stood, taller than the trees. Arms too many. Its skin, not skin at all. More like wet bark, pulsing. Its face, no face. Just holes. Eyes? Maybe. Mouth? Maybe. No one knew. But it saw them. And the green fire sputtered. One of the warriors screamed and ran. He made it 3 steps. Then he was gone. No noise. No tears. Just gone. Like the jungle swallowed him whole. The rest didn't run. They couldn't. The beast stepped forward, and the forest leaned away. Trees bent backward. The earth cracked, and the bones on the ground rose like dust. Zuba raised her blade. Kebo roared. Nyala leapt from the trees with his poison-tipped knife straight toward the thing's neck. The battle began. It wasn't like fighting a man. It wasn't even like fighting an animal. They weren't cutting flesh. They were cutting memories. Pain that didn't bleed. Roars that didn't echo. Every strike was absorbed. Every fire dulled. Every scream faded too fast. But they kept fighting. Not because they believed they could win, but because if they didn't, Bala would consume the world. Zuba finally drove her blade deep into the creature's side. Green-black sap poured out. The creature staggered. And for the first time, it screamed. Not loud. Not wild. Just deep. Like a death rattle from a mountain. Then Kebo charged with his club lit on green flame. He didn't aim for the body. He aimed for the pillar. He smashed it. 1 hit. 2. 3. And with the final blow, the earth screamed. The beast froze. Its limbs stopped twitching. Its head lifted to the sky. And then it shattered. Not exploded. Not burned. Just broke. Like a statue made of bark and ash and bone. Falling to pieces. Silence followed. Then, wind. Birdsong. The jungle breathed again. Zuba dropped to her knees. Nyala leaned on his blade. Cabo stood alone, in the center of the broken circle, green fire still flickering at his feet. "It's done," he said. But no one smiled. Because victory in Bala doesn't feel like joy. It feels like survival. And survival comes with a price. Weeks passed. The jungle healed, or at least pretended to. Trees straightened. The rains returned. Animals crept from hiding. But something had changed. Not just in the air. In the roots. Zuba stood on the edge of her territory, near the old singing cliffs. The same cliffs that once roared with red crow drums. Now silent. She carried no weapon. Only a small pouch of ash from the beast's remains. She spread it on the ground, not to curse, not to summon. To warn. Here, she whispered, something woke that should never wake again. Her people watched her with reverence and fear. They still called her queen. But she no longer ruled with fire. Now she ruled with remembrance. Cabo returned to the north. His village was quieter. Fewer men. Fewer stories. He no longer led patrols. He no longer spoke of vengeance. He walked the jungle with bare feet and slow steps. Not as a warrior. As a witness. Every night, he lit a small green fire. And every night, he placed a stone near it. One stone for each warrior who died in the war. There were many stones. Nyala? No one knows. Some say he walked into the river and dissolved. Others say he became part of the trees. But a scout, one of the young ones, claimed to see him once. High above the canopy, crouched on a branch, eyes glowing faint green. Watching. Always watching. But the jungle doesn't give closure. Not really. Because deep under the roots of Mbala, where the bones were never buried, where blood still clings to the rock, something stirs. Not the beast. No. But what came before it? The old ones say the beast was never alone, that it was only a guardian. And now that it's dead, what is guarded may come looking. One night, deep in the jungle, a child heard a sound beneath her hut. Not footsteps. Not breathing. Just whispering. Roots brushing each other beneath the soil, making words in a language no one remembers. She pressed her ear to the floor, and what she heard made her blood run cold. Not yet. The jungle sleeps again, but it remembers. And when it's ready, it will wake. Again.